guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Forever Milk podcast. Hope you've been drinking your milk. It's gonna make you bone strong.
Yeah,
Today,
sit back and have a nice glass of milk. Why don't you?
um,
Kick back with a glass.
today we will be reviewing uh, "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC. Classic album, classic songs, classic goodness. And so, if you haven't been here before, this show is pretty much where we just talk about albums.
It's filled with calcium.
It is a show filled with calcium, and as well as the album. The album's 2%.
It's,
It's the best kind.
it's you know it, man. It's 2%. Okay. Do you have any introductory thoughts on this?
You're a little more fluent in AC/DC, I would say, than I am. Yeah,
I'm a little more, I think. Yeah, just barely.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
By the way, people out there, they're like probably my favorite band out there, and I've been into them for like a decade now, probably more. And I have been like super familiar with this album, and the title track was actually what got me in, like, really into music, and playing music and all that kind of stuff. And um, as for a lot of people, I'm sure. But
Yeah, so I've only ever listened all the way through one other AC/DC album, and you can probably guess what that is.
I know, yeah, you told us Back in Black.
Yeah. So, this was a first for me. I think I only even, at least off the top of my head, knew two of the songs. I'm sure you've shown me more, but I only knew um, two of the songs on this album as I was going through it. I was like, okay, I know this one, and then I was like, oh, this is the other one I know. So
I think
pretty
I have
pretty
only shown
fresh.
you like two of them.
Oh well, then I wasn't.
But I'm sure you already knew the title track,
Of course.
didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was also, I think, the first time I've listened all the way through anything Bon Scott related, as far as album goes. So that was,
Hmm.
I would say, a little bit enlightening, as I only had so much of a perspective on him from individual tracks here and there and some live performances I've seen.
Yeah. His voice is so much rougher on this album, and I don't mean he performed lesser than the other albums, but it sounds just so much rougher and like scratchier and aggressive on this album than the others. Um, but yeah, this was his swan song, unfortunately. Um, and so yeah, yeah, I really dig it. Obviously, been listening to it for the past 10 years, and so um, one thing I'll say is the guitar tone on this is like, I used to think like it's my favorite AC/DC guitar tone, and maybe just in general, like one of my favorite tones ever. Like, but it's so hard to choose between their albums, particularly the albums in the '70s and Back in Black. Um, but it's a pretty good candidate. It's really really good stuff. I mean, it's Marshalls. The best Marshalls ever made is what they're using. And have always used pretty much. So let's get right into this. So we start with the title track. It's like one of the greatest rock songs ever, probably, and it's there's a reason why people have remembered it for the past 42 years now. It's like I don't know how exactly to articulate it, but for me, the hook was the guitar tone in large part. It was so distinct, and I was like, it was like, how in the world did they get that and that kind of thing? And it's this is so corny and dumb, but like I first really got into the song from the movie Wild Hogs. Have you seen that movie?
I think I've seen bits and pieces. I'm not a huge movie watcher, so I think I've seen my dad watching part of it, but I haven't like
Hmm.
sat down and watched the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, this plays in one of the scenes of that movie, and I really dug the way it was set up, like that whole scene with the song. They did a really good job with that, and so that was kind of what got me into the song, was the mindset of like, I don't know how to say it without, or whatever I'm trying to say without being corny. it's just those guys are like out on the road and just burning rubber, basically, on their bikes, and they're old and lame, kind of, but not really by the end of the movie. And so the song, I think, did a pretty good job of that, even though it's about something else. It is about burning rubber, like being out on the road, but um, I mean, not much to say about it, like, other than just how classic it is. Great guitar tone, great vocal performance, great lyrics. It's like lyrically, it's like the "Wanted Dead or Alive" for AC/DC, and the background vocals sound really, really good. I really like them, and I don't know if I think that the album version really compares to the live version, honestly, which is the case for a lot of their songs. But I don't think that would really hurt their feelings that much if they heard that, because they know they're meant to be on stage, and they know they like to be on stage more than anything. And so, but that's kind of the way it is. I'm not always a fan of, like, you know down tuning, like this song is a quarter step down, um which is the case for a lot of songs on this album. And so it just makes it sound scrappier, and, like, I don't know, it almost makes it sound like they were just unintentionally out of tune, even though there's no way they did it unintentionally. um like, so, but obviously you can never you can't wish for change on a song that's as classic as this. And so, I mean, not much more to say. I gotta give this one like a 9.
I can see that. I would say that that's a pretty fair rating. So I think this is one killer opener, just out of the track, out of the gate. Sets the tone for the album pretty perfectly. I think it's pretty fun to listen to, and I think this is one of
Very
the
rock radio friendly,
yeah, um,
album oriented rock radio friendly.
yeah, absolutely. And I think Bond sounds pretty good here. And I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not the hugest fan of Bond's vocals. Um, and if
Mhm.
if anything, I feel like this album kind of cemented my lack of interest
It's
in
not the most
Bond as a
melodic
vocalist. Yeah, he's not bad
melody
by any means, and he does
melodic
exactly what he
melody.
sets out
It's
to do pretty well. It's just
Mhm.
not a style that really appeals to me a whole lot. But I'd say this is probably some of his peak stuff, um, from what I've heard up until this point. And I
Yeah.
think this song has a great use of gang vocals, of course, um, without feeling overtly corny, which I feel like happens a few times later on this album. Um, but again, I think it was pretty good use here. Very catchy, very very strong, strong, strong hook. I like the solo a lot. It's very tasty.
Yeah.
Um, and you're gonna get the big rock finish at the end, where everybody's just kind of going crazy. You always got to have that big rock finish,
Mhm.
um, which is a
Mhm.
classic. So, and that's what I would say this song is through and through. It is a
Yeah.
classic, and there's no really beating
Yeah.
around the bush with that. Um,
Ha 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 ha.
but it's definitely not my favorite AC/DC song. Um, and I've never actually been that crazy over this one, so I don't dislike it by any means. I think it's a pretty good track, but it's just kind of a neutral to positive feeling on this one. So I'm gonna give it a pretty strong 7.
Yeah. Um, do you cringe when I say, like, it's one of the greatest rock songs of all time? Are you just like,
No,
dude,
I
come on? Like,
I I think that there's a lot of merit there. Um, just with how
I mean,
much this song
just
has like resonated with people over the years and how it's just
yeah.
never gone away. It's one of those. It's kind of like I know a lot of people are absolutely driven up the wall by "Don't Stop Believin'," but at the end of the day,
I
that song is
I
like it's inescapable for a reason. I think because it's one of the most
it
well
I in my
composed pop
opinion,
rock
that one
songs ever.
completely, yeah. That "Don't Stop Believing" completely earns its status, in my opinion. But, like, one thing I will say, like, the production of this album is a little bit strange to me, because it still sounds like, um, it was their most, like, cleanly produced album up to that point, for sure. Um, because they had Mutt Lange producing,
Yeah,
and
that's actually something I was going to mention. Is I think the mix on this album were, especially for the time that it came out, is absolutely crystal.
yeah, oh, definitely. And I think the drums sounded a little bit more real and alive to me. They sounded really dry on previous albums, and they sounded like on this album like more like a drum sound you could get. Um, and it was the first time to me like hearing the iconic classic drum sound that I know and appreciate most in AC/DC, like the kind of Back in Black and Highway to Hell. Like I think of them in the same vein as far as the drum sound goes, even though they're kind of different. But like the what I was gonna say about the production is that it still sounds like garagey. They still sound like a club rock band at this point. You know, it was before Back in Black, and they had kind of created these larger than life songs, you know, without gated reverb and all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. Um and so that's kind of a criticism, but like it's it's something that had to happen, you know what I mean, for them. Like the transition from making these really scrappy but really like well organized and tight uh rock albums to, you know, professional sounding biggest albums in the world kind of thing, you know. It was a transition that needs to be made, and I think they were understandably very happy with the way it came out because they still sounded like them. They didn't compromise too much, but it was really well produced, despite all the criticisms I just gave for it, kind of. But yeah, we've kind of gone on about that for a while. Let's move on. Girls Got Rhythm.
Girls got rhythm. I don't. that's not.
Yeah,
That's not
I
how it goes.
really love the background vocals in this song. Um, I think it's one of those things like I think it's like a power chord harmony kind of thing, which they do a lot. I could be wrong on that, but
Hmm.
they just sound really, really good, and they're crystal clear. And that was another really great thing about the production on this album is um, Mutt got them to organize the background vocals and like put more emphasis on them, like make them more of a part of their sound, which they totally did, like much more than in the past. And this is a testament to that. And I think overall, this is just like it's basically like a straight up pop song. It's the poppiest song on the album, and you know, it's got like bouncy drums and you know, the bass line to go along with it, and it's like you know, it's super like hooky kind of thing, and um, very straightforward and simple song structure, and so yeah, what would I give this one? I give this one like 7.
All right.
I really like
Um,
it.
I wasn't, super crazy over this one. I'm kind of neutral about this track. There's just a couple songs on this album that I felt very neutral to. This one felt very similar to Highway to Hell for me, but lacking a lot of the intrigue that was there initially. I just feel like a lot of it is it's in the pocket of Highway to Hell, but nothing comes together in the same way. Um, and I found the verses a little bit irritating. Not that they were necessarily bad, but I couldn't really get into them. I thought the solo was really great. And I kind of liked how you can hear Bond's voice start to crack up within the final chorus and the outro. I thought that was really cool because it, like you said, it's got that scrappiness to it, and it still sounds really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like some of his highest
oh yeah.
melodies, you know?
So that actually probably saved a lot of this song for me. Um, and I kind of disagree a little bit about the gang vocals here, where I do agree that they sound really nice. It's more of the way that they're implemented that I wasn't a huge fan of because I've never been a big fan of like call and
The call and
response.
response
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and I just it kind of was like, no, it's all right, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't hate this song, and I don't really. Love it. I don't have a lot of strong feeling towards it one way or another, so I'm just gonna let it chill out at a 5.
Yeah, that's kind of been our neutral rating, which makes sense, obviously. But do you agree that it pretty much is like a straight up pop song?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
but
the progression feels appropriate, and it's just the
yeah,
entire energy and the feel of everything. So,
yeah. Well, and for that reason, it's definitely not my favorite song on the album. Um, but I mean, it's nobody's favorite song on the album. But it doesn't quite have the meanness that's characteristic of AC/DC, but still a really good song, and it has the guitar tone and the groove and the solidity of the tempo, and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, you know,
mhm,
what did I get? I gave it a 7, didn't I?
yeah,
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about that. What do we have next? I believe it's "Walk All
walk
Over You."
all over you. Yep.
I'm on
Yeah,
a different album on my phone.
I kind
Yep.
of enjoyed this one a decent bit. I thought the solo in this one was really sick. Um,
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
really dug it. It had the right amount of feel and the right length. Um, and I thought the riff that kicks in post chorus every time is just like
Oh yeah,
it got me grooving
absolutely.
super heavy.
Yeah, that was when I showed you, like, one of my favorite, like, guitar leads, all-time favorite guitar.
Yeah.
We were doing solos, but I cheated and put, like, little lead
Yeah.
parts in there.
I don't
Um,
think we even got all the way through that either because I still had two or three that I never showed you. Um, but that's
uh,
for another
I
time.
think I got yeah. Um, this is the geeky kinda shit we do together. We're like,
Yeah,
"What are your
just like
favorite guitar solos?" I'll
uh,
make a list. Let's make a yeah, and then we go through it one by one and,
be like this part. I like the way that this note hits a little higher than the last. It makes it really nice.
yeah.
Um,
"Do you hear that tone, man?"
and but anyways, last thing, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. But I thought it was pretty good. And I liked how the chorus had sort of a slow or a little bit of a slower flow to it than some of the other stuff on this track
Oh,
or this
yeah.
album.
They half-timed the
Yeah,
drums.
and that felt really nice. And then I gotta mention the big rock finish.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm gonna.
You see, most bands will save that until the end of the concert. They only do that once, you
This
know?
is
They do it on
every
just
other
every
song.
song.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, I like this one. I like this one. Wasn't mind blown, but I would definitely come back to it sometime. So I'll put it at a
Yeah.
pretty solid 6.
Yeah, I think this one is, like, has to be played loud, um, like, more than, like, "Girls Got Rhythm," you know?
Hmm.
Um, and probably even more than "Highway to Hell," I think, because it's it's faster, but it just punches, like, harder than hell, you know, I think, and, um, you know, the drums are, like, again, it's really fast, and Phil just smacks the drums like he's their pimp no matter what, you know, and so and he's like maybe one of my favorite drummers. Like it's between. I know people are gonna think that's really dumb, but like because oh he just plays the same beat every song. Like okay, but yeah, have you watched him play it and he like and heard how solid he is? Like he hits the snare the exact same every time, and he like it's just perfect for me. Like his feel on the hi hat and all that stuff, and you know Phil's got rhythm. That is so stupid, um, again, like you hear the great AC/DC guitar tone, like as in every song on this album, and you get to hear the really classic drum sound and the toms I was talking about. They're so like they sound like cardboard boxes almost. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
so punchy and like he's smacking cardboard boxes with with
the
drumsticks and
drums.
like yeah, that's what he does on every film. But yeah, that's the kind of sound that I knew, like, in my early time listening to AC/DC, like, albums like this and Back in Black, you know? And so, you get to hear that really clearly at the beginning of the song, which I dig. Um, And I really like you mentioned like the chorus slows down. I like that a lot, but it also like manages to build dynamics with you can on the last chorus you can hear like everybody's hitting harder, and then there's the lead track in the middle, um, which is a really good way of adding dynamics. Just adding a bunch of like crazy licks and
Hmm.
stuff like that towards the end of the song. Um, and so it's just a great song. I'd maybe give this one like a 9 as well.
Cool. I could say that's fair.
Yeah. So I
All
think that's
right.
about it for this one. What have
All
we got
right.
next?
Moving on is too much. Touch
Yeah.
too much.
This is a little bit of a weird one because this one wasn't always one of my favorites.
I actually really liked this one.
Ugh, this is always what happens.
I thought this one was really fun. That was pretty cool. I liked a lot of it. It felt really different than a lot of the album, and I think that's why it kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange, relatively.
Hmm.
I mean, like the first verse is a little bit weird.
Yeah,
You know,
and I mean,
just
I like
basically just keynote.
that was yeah, fair enough. And I thought the guitar parts were pretty cool in this, like through the verse sections. I thought, even though not maybe the most dynamic or anything, but I thought it was really fun and interesting, and I just liked the melody and the verses.
Hmm.
I just felt it all flowed really, really, really well. It had a very good energy to it. Um, it just kind of kept the song going for me. Um,
Yeah,
and I liked, it almost had kind of this sense of like a rolling flow, you know, kind of at a slow pace. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I
like
thought that
maybe even driving down the road kind of
yeah,
song.
yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I was going for. Um,
Hmm.
and I thought that the chorus was really cool, and I thought the harmonies in the chorus were also really great. Um, and I thought the solo was really nice. Like I liked the tone and like the way it was mixed into the track and everything, but I feel like it could have, had a little more to it, a little bit a little longer, and maybe had a little bit more happening. But aside from that, I actually really really liked this one. So I would say probably
Yeah,
my highest so far for this album. I'm gonna put this one at a 7.
yeah. The song feels a little bit darker, and I mean like um, darker, like the image I get in my head. Like what do they call that synesthesia or something?
Hmm.
Like when you uh, I don't know if I would explicitly say that I experience like synesthesia in that manner, but like I do kind of get pictures in my head like with certain songs, and a lot of it's sometimes it's associated with just the music video for the song, and this one does have a video, but like
Hmm.
this one just like separate from that video, even it feels like I get darker, more blacker nighttime images in my mind, and with this one, um, you know what I mean? It's like a very kind of
So
late at
I
night
like I
type
totally
song.
like when listening to music, I totally build like a visual atmosphere.
Hmm.
And like it's kind of like a projection. I wouldn't say it's synesthesia because it's not like an inherent like,
Yeah,
you know, oh, I'm listening to
genetic
this
thing.
song, I see red or I see blue, because a lot of
Yeah,
people
no,
do get
no,
that
not like
kind of a
that.
thing. But no, I thought that I definitely like associate a lot of music to like visual representation one way or another. Like
Yeah,
maybe maybe I associate them with locations, even though I have no reason to associate with them with a certain location, or I can associate them with like uh like a situation, if that makes sense. Like I'll listen to a
yeah,
song and all of a sudden I feel like I'm in the mountains, you
yeah.
know.
Well, everybody does that. Everybody like if they listen to a song at a certain place or certain time,
But
like
like
that's in our
it's
brains.
but it's not even like there's uh for whatever reason, like a good example, there's a song called I Stay Away by Alice in Chains. Phenomenal song off of Jar of Flies. Great album.
Yeah,
Um I have never listened to that song on a mountain, but every time I listen to that song, I feel like I get the sensation of being like in like you know, up in like the Appalachian Mountains, or like
yeah,
maybe more of like a, you know, I don't know where I'm going with that, but like
Yeah.
it gives me a
It's
very
weird,
like
it is weird, like,
atmosphere.
how yeah, if you're reading a book or listening to music or something, even if you haven't seen something to go along with it, like, you involuntarily kinda build up a landscape or a an environment in your mind, like but would you agree with, that for this song particularly what I said?
Yeah, there's another album or another song on this album that I think gave me very, very strong, like dark nighttime feel. But we'll get to
I have
that
a
one a
pretty
little
good
bit
guess
later.
of what it
Yeah,
is,
I think you
you
could
know, based
probably tell immediately
um,
what song that is. But yeah, no, I could totally agree with that. I think a lot of music from this time period tends to give me like darker, more
yeah.
like nighttime type feel. But
Yeah. Well, their music was just mean,
mhm,
melodically, too, and aggressive, so this is part of it too. But this was, like, super moody, like, I'm particularly talking about, like, the 1st verse, but, like, the rest of the song as well, like so, I'm not as big of a fan of this one, I'd probably give it, like, 7, um, I actually am not such a big fan of the background vocals because they're just kind of, like, ridiculously high to me,
mhm,
you know? They sound nice, but it's like, I don't know, just not my favorite thing. Um, and like it's so weird. Like when you look up the lyrics of this song, like the chorus, people always on almost every lyric side it says like seems like a touch instead of she's got the touch. You know
mhm.
what I mean? I was like, why does everybody think that? That doesn't make nearly as much sense, especially since later in the song, like Bond says, "Baby got the touch," like towards the end of the song. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know why everybody thinks that, and like it's like it feels like they're conspiracy gaslighting me. Like why would I think what sounds so obvious to me? Like I don't know. I don't know. But that's like I can never like what are the lyrics of this song? But that's just a weird, probably um, idiosyncratic experience for me.
Mhm.
With this one, like um, again, it's not one of my favorites, but it's still got like the members of AC/DC playing a song together. So like that's the same for any of
Mhm.
the songs off this album or any of their albums that I am not like super fond of. Like it still has that and that'll keep me coming back to it. Like and the guitar tone again, like, can't say enough about it. It's still there, like and it's really satisfying to hear them playing like just a big D chord or a big G chord or anything like that. And so sounds really good. Even with like the single note kind of things in the verse where it's like down, 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 or I guess that's the
Mhm.
chorus, but you know, still, I'm gonna give this one like a 7.
Cool. And what's
What
next?
have we got next?
Beating
Did
around the
you
bush. Beating
beating
around
around the
beating
bush?
around the bush. I am the king of bush.
This one was frustrating for me for a long time because I wasn't always most fond of the songs that are just super fast and have a like no 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 like riff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but it's grown on me more like in recent years um, because of the guitar tone as well as like how tight the band is rhythmically, especially with a song like that, and where the guitars are starting and stopping with like right exactly in time with the drums and everything. Um, and the lead tone like on this one is still like it's as good as anything. Like super tasty sounding solo, like and leads is like I like that in the like towards the end of the solo and
Mhm.
like during the very last chorus right before the big rock finish. Um because like his vibrato is just perfect. Like it can't be overstated how good of a guitar player he is. He just has the perfect touch. He knows exactly what he's doing and you know, he does it all perfectly. He's just such a competent and skilled guitar player.
Mhm.
It's just in the genes. you know. And so I kind of just said like nothing but good about it, even though it's like I just said it was also like not one of my favorites. But I'd probably give this one like a 7. Only not an 8, just because it's not always the one I would choose to listen to out of all the ones on this album. you know,
Yeah.
but the lyrics are really really good. You
Hmm.
know, I really like the
Yeah.
lyrics.
This song was a bit of a low point for me on this album. Actually, I really didn't like it very much. I didn't think it was like
Did it have anything
terrible.
to do with the stuff I said? The like really fast and the riff
The
kind of thing.
the I thought that the riff was a bit irritating, but I also thought the vocals were rather irritating on this track as well. And it was just kind of a little bit, you know, much.
It's the
Didn't.
same thing. It's like not very melodic.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
thought the solo was pretty good, but that kind of goes without saying. It's AC/DC. Angus is a killer player.
it doesn't always.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to hear some of their later stuff. But
You've shown me some of their weaker
well,
stuff.
yeah, I have.
Um, Something I can compliment this track on is I thought that it had a really great use of like
Sink the Pink. That's all I'm gonna say.
um I think that this track had a really great use of space and silence, and there was just a lot of like there was so much space around the song you could hear it, but everything still felt really full. Um but again, like I think a big part of it
Hmm.
for me was I didn't like the sort of the rhythm of everything, which played into the way that the riff was written and the way that the vocals played on top of everything, and it just kind of had this kind of hop skip kind of feel to it, and just it it just was like the longer it went on, the more I was just ready for it to be over. I was like, this isn't the worst thing I've ever heard, but I definitely don't like it. And then we got another big rock finish. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
no,
don't know if I'm like. Um, I don't know if I'm like Angus's rhythm tone as much on the other songs. And maybe I'm crazy and it really sounds the same. Like, but to me, it sounds a little bit more like lawnmower engine kind of distorted. Um, I don't know, just more not quite as clean and articulate as the other songs. Just I don't know, a little too almost like fuzzy for my taste. Um, but that's just like nitpicky, and you can especially hear it like at the very beginning of the song, when it's just him playing the riff. Um, so I don't know, it just hasn't really ever hit me right compared to the other stuff on the album for some reason. Um, but you know
Mhm.
that's about what I have to say on that song. And you're about to give your rating.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm not crazy over it. I think it's kind of a low point, and I kind of dislike it a little bit. I think it sits at about a 4 for me.
Yeah, I can see it.
Mhm.
Um, Next we have one of my favorites. Um,
Shot down in flames.
I was gonna make a really stupid joke, but
I ruined it.
I just couldn't. No, I just couldn't think of like how to make it land on its feet. But um, anyways, this is like they always play the song and they still do like it's always been in their set like forever and will
Mhm.
be until the end of time. And so um, it's a funny one because it's a little bit poppier. It almost is a straight up pop song when you're just listening to the verses. It's a little bit
Mhm.
funkier and it's got the super straightforward like bass, just eighth notes and the bouncy drums again, like just four on the floor kind of beat. Um, but once you get to the chorus and the solo, and especially the last chorus, it's just super classic ACDC. But even then, it's a little bit more poppy. It's just got the aggression and the meanness. But the guitar tone for me on this album, on this song, is a high point for the album. I think, like just hearing them play the main riff together, like right at the beginning. I'm absolutely in love with that, and I always have been. And it's a cool riff again because it's super funky, like oh yeah kind of riff. Almost. There's an Amber Alert at the moment.
Oh, shibble, dude.
That's a
I
shame.
also got an Amber Alert. All right, anybody want to go hunting? It's Statesville, North Carolina. Looking for a 2014 gray Honda Odyssey. If you've seen it, phone in, boys. The hunt is on.
Phone in, boys. Yep. Um. Oh yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a funkier dance kind of riff. You know what I mean? As weird as that is, but like you know, I think everybody knows that a lot of times the singles don't necessarily earn the place in the set list as far as like the big fans are concerned. But I think this one is definitely it's fair. Like the um the like again the chorus and the guitar solo have all the aggression and the meanness and the great melody that you need in an ACDC song. And yeah, I really like the solo, and I really like the final chorus where there's the third lead track from the solo, like playing the rhythm, and so it's just bananas. It's just going bonkers at that point,
Hmm.
and so that by the end they can hammer that riff one last time, um, and give it a huge finish like that really does the song justice. I think it's just a great song, so I'd probably give it a 9,
Wow, you're gonna be disappointed.
maybe a 10.
Wow. Yeah, I did not get
Probably not a 10.
much of that from this song myself. I'm pretty neutral to this one, honestly. I
Hmm.
felt the guitar work and the riffage was really nice, and pretty sick, overall. I liked the verses quite a bit actually as well. And this track is very classic ACD, or ACD, ACD, ACDC. Um,
I have ACD.
it's very straightforward. It is their sound. It is what they do that works. There's nothing, really unusual about this one or different, and it's solid in its own right. It was just a bit repetitive, in a way
Yeah,
that I didn't really care
it feels
for.
like a song. It feels like a song where they're just trying to trim the fat more than anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Very straightforward. But they didn't do anything that they didn't need to do. You know,
Yeah.
very kind of minimalistic.
Yeah. I
So
so yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. Pretty neutral. I think it's a solid 5 for me.
fair enough. Um, I'd say one of the reasons I don't give it a 10 is because you know a, for a song to be a 10, it probably has to be a little bit grander um, than this, and it's just a little too straightforward. And uh, not that I have a problem with straight, like simple songs. I definitely don't. But and also the lyrics are just kind of like you know, on this album it was still Bond being the great lyricist that he is, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But I think it was a step back um, from a lot of the stuff on Powers. Not on every song. There was some great stuff on this one, but this song, I mean, it is what it is. It's just kind of it's more lighthearted than a Gone shooting or something like that for
Yeah.
sure. Is my point. I think there's a lot of like probably a lot of sincerity in it because I doubt he would have just made up stories like this. I don't think he was the type to do that. Like, um, his he was usually very sincere and like personal, and a lot of the lyrics in those albums, those earlier ones, are legitimate personal stories that really happened, and so um,
Hmm.
I really respect that. And so there's some sincerity in it, but it's just like it's just not something like I feel this deep in my soul, shot down and I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess if you just think about it more, like everybody can relate to being rejected, um, except for you out there, dear viewer, all you perfect tens. What do we got next?
I
We got
think we're going on to Get It Hot. Get It
this is like your
Get
favorite
it
song on the album,
hot.
right? Because it's like one of my least favorites.
No, actually, this was my least favorite song on the album.
Okay.
I did not like this song, but and
Yeah.
just I don't even have much to say about it. It was just very lackluster front to back for me. It was aggressively AC/DC, if that makes sense. You know, it was very
I don't
them.
think so. Like,
I felt like it was
I
just
think it was more
straight in the
poppy and
middle of
not.
their sound and like didn't have anything, varying from what they're usually do at all present on this one. And I thought it was
Yeah.
repetitive to the point that I was getting really irritated with it, especially the chorus. And on the
You mean
chorus,
you
I
don't like
thought I
like that's it, just
I just
basically.
yeah, I thought the chorus was super dumb. I thought like Bond's work on this track was maybe some of the weakest I've heard from him. I thought
Yeah.
that the guitars never really hit home, bass never really hit home, the drums, well, they were doing what they usually do. Um,
The
uh,
drums are kind of funny because you talk about the chorus like being a little bit lame, and the drums are just like snare on all four beats. It's like
yeah.
like snare and kick on all four beats, and so
So
that's
yeah,
kind of funny. That might have subconsciously contributed, like
yeah,
just
I actually
that doesn't hit right, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I guess I didn't pick up on that, which I was so focused on, just hearing "Get It Hot" for the millionth time.
Yeah,
um, so yeah, actually, I will say I don't hate this song. I'm being a little harsh on it.
yeah,
Um, and I would definitely choose to listen to this over a lot of other stuff. So I'll give it a 4.
yeah.
It's on the dislike scale, but it's not in the "oh, I hate this song."
So even when I was in like even my early ACDC fan stage, I did not like this song. I would just skip it just about every time. I thought the riff was uncreative and boring, and like, um, but I appreciate it more now. Like, it on a slightly related note, this is like when I first picked up Bond: The Last Highway by Jesse Fink. By the way, if you're an ACDC fan, and even if you're not, pick up that book. Like, you have to read it if you are an ACDC fan. Like, if you want to hear like what life from the road was really like for Bon Scott, I don't like just a lot of interesting information about ACDC from people who were there. Like, definitely pick up that book. But he opened the book like talking about this song, like when the band first came to America, and like how Barry Manilow was like on the radio all the time or had just won an award or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, this must have pissed Bon off or something," because Bon actually didn't like Barry. So he's like, "Nobody's playing Manilow." So
Yeah.
that's kind of funny. But yeah, like this, I don't know. Like, I'd probably give this one like a 6. And I appreciate it for what it is, which is a very simple, straightforward, like cool rock song, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, not a whole lot much else to say about it. It's got, for what it is, it has really good lyrics, and again, it's always personal stuff that's with sincerity with him, and so, you know, not going to slam it too much, but definitely not a high point for me. But I still like it, so I'll give it a 6. And we got to move on. This fucking thing is probably
We're at
2 hours long
we're at
by
about
this.
50 minutes right now, so we might want to
Yeah,
keep the pace up a little bit from this point
yeah.
forward.
Okay.
So what's next? If you want blood, you've got it.
If you want blood. Okay,
Um,
I'll say already, like, I don't think I have too much to say about this one other than that I think it is AC/DC at their best, like, and
mhm.
I would give it a 9. It's
Wow.
got the aggression, it's got a really good riff, um, it's got, like, a climax towards the end, like, in the bridge, it got a really good solo, and then, like, it has the last section where it fades out to, and it's just them going 110%, and then Angus comes in, and then it's just great. I really dig the background vocals here, even though it's like it's kind of weird because you can only hear like Bond's vocals, and you can't hear actually what pitch the background like harmonies are doing. Like I can't tell. Like I've listened to it a million billion times, and I look and here's, I can just hear the main vocal melody. Like it's weird,
Hmm.
but um, yeah, I think it's just about perfect for an
Hmm.
AC/DC song, and I give it a 9. Um,
Interesting.
and you get to hear like some of my favorite AC/DC guitar tone, but Malcolm playing by himself, like you know, playing like the master of rhythm guitar that he was, and you know, it's a killer riff again. Um, so I really enjoyed that. Like whenever we get to hear Malcolm playing by himself, but and then Angus comes in just letting that big chord ring out, and so, but yeah, it's an interesting one, like lyrically, because it could be about a lot of things specifically. I don't know what specifically it's about. Like maybe it's written like from the perspective of the band as a whole. Um, but yeah, it can be taken a lot of different ways. So, but it's weird, like because I still don't know like what really they're talking about. Um, but but I like it. Um, that's about all I got to say.
Cool.
It's a 9.
A 9. Wow, you're gonna be disappointed with this one as well. I'm pretty neutral to this track. Actually, it didn't do a whole lot for me. Um, and I felt the chorus was pretty decent. Felt the verses were fun, and it had a pretty killer solo. And I think the last chorus, the way everything came in, hit really, really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I, I feel like at this point the albums started to kind of blend together for me. Like I kind of started having a bit of an issue. Like if you asked me to like rattle off, which song was which, I would start having kind of an issue telling them apart unless I was really, really listening to them. Like sitting down and listening to a large portion of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And they were starting to kind of the whole thing started to feel a bit formulaic to me actually, where I feel
Yeah.
like every was the
Well,
same
that's the number one criticism
front to
AC/DC
back.
gets.
Yeah,
You
and I
know,
know. And I was trying going into this album, I was gonna be like, yeah, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna try so hard not to
I
say
mean,
that.
they do. You know, they know
Um,
what they are, and like to me, the songs are very different, but like they're definitely have a very specific thing
mhm.
that they're doing. You know,
Yeah,
stylistically.
I
So.
think that it wouldn't be an issue for me at all if I was like in love with AC/DC's sound. Like if I really, 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 really loved the sound that they had, then I think I would be like
Mhm.
eating it up. Because like you know, some bands that I like can get kind of repetitive with their sound and never really change a whole lot, and I'll still eat that shit up just because I love the sound that they have. So I think it's more of in this situation the reason that it feels that way for me, and that I started to kind of feel like it was the album was starting to drag a little bit at this point was because I'm not like in love with AC/DC's sound, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to have my fill. It's like I've eaten, you know, 8 pieces of pizza, and the last four are sitting right there. If we got a whole 12 slice pizza, those last four are sitting right
Yeah.
there, and I don't need to eat anymore because I'm already starting to feel a little ill. But I'm just gonna keep pushing. I'm not gonna waste my money. I'm gonna eat that whole damn pizza.
Yeah.
So especially after the last 3 songs, because I wasn't crazy over those. I think that it was just kind of a stretch of tracks that I wasn't crazy over at this point, and so it was starting to get very like
Yeah.
sort of like okay.
It's partly, I think, it's partly, I think, also because, and they're certainly not the only band that does this, but like they kind of have basically the same guitar tone and same drum sound happening the entire
Yes,
album,
yes,
and so
absolutely. But on to like even still, like I think that they've got a great choice of tone for the drums and guitar. Hell, even the bass. But not my favorite bass tone by any means.
yeah,
But I think it fits what they need it to. But
yeah. Cliff is like he really got to like. I don't want to comment too much on this, but like as far as like the whole dispute about whether or not he played on the last album, I think he really fit. He found what was the proper way of playing on this album.
mhm.
Like he knows what they want and he's going to do it, but he's also a bad motherfucker on the bass, and so you know he was able to let his hair down in some ways. Um, uh, I don't know what I'm saying. He's just super duper tight. Like I love his playing,
Hmm.
and you know, and like you're talking about, it fits what they're doing. Like it I think it's exactly right because his tone itself is like it's warm but punchy. That's
Hmm.
always how I tend to describe it. Like it's not like McCartney or anything like that kind of bass, but
Hmm.
it fills the space. Um,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't dislike this song like by any means. It just at this point, I think I had started to tire a bit of the sound that was present on this album. So it just didn't really like click. So it left me feeling pretty neutral, and I'll just leave it at a 5.
yeah. Okay. Let's get on. It's funny you mentioned pizza because Angus described this next song as like one of the worst AC/DC songs, and he said, "I probably wrote it after a night of bad pizza." So,
Yeah, I
but
I
for me,
so
again, it's like I said before. You know, maybe if songwriting quality isn't top tier stuff, like it's still those five guys playing together, and they have the tone and they have the groove and the feel and everything like that. And so, like, it's hard for me to give anything on this album like lower than a 6. And so,
mhm,
I'd probably give this one like a 7. I like it better than Get It Hot, probably. Maybe not because like the songwriting quality isn't like all the way up to. I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough one to rate because there's a lot of really great things about it. Like I think it's also kind of a high point for a guitar tone as well, in my personal opinion. Um, and the verse riff I really enjoy, like in the second verse. I mean, um, where it kind of starts to build up a little bit,
yeah,
and they're super tight. And the lead tone is really good on here, and um, I don't know what else can I say. I don't think about this one like as much relative to
mhm.
the other stuff. I definitely don't listen to it as much, but I'd probably give it like a 6.5, 7. I don't know. What do you think?
Fair enough, I suppose. Like I said, I don't really have much strong. Wait, have we moved on to Love Hungry?
You know? Yeah, man. Like
I
that's
don't
what we're
think I
doing.
don't think we introed this song. I think we just went into it. But yeah,
I say this next song like
yeah, you said this next song, and then I don't think we said the name. But yeah. So Love Hungry Man. Yeah, no, about the same as the last track actually
do you
for me.
guys like my Angus impression? I think I did a pretty
I
good
need to
job.
learn to voice, right? Um,
Shut the
yeah.
fuck up. You're talking
I
about he always does this. He just can't not make fun of people. Nobody can talk around him without the criticism. But
Hey man, people
yeah,
speak
but
funny. I speak fun. I sound like an idiot most of the time. Um,
yeah, but you're not under the thumb of somebody else all the time. Criticism.
um, yeah, this song also left me feeling pretty neutral. Thought the solo was fun. Um, second verse, the riff in the second verse, I think adds a lot that was missing in the first. Um, and I thought the bass work on this track was super cool, kind of funky even.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and that,
definitely.
that was like the
He
only
let
time
his
I think I
hair down a little
when
bit.
listening to ACDC, I've been like, that's some sick bass. And I was like, that's
You
a
did when
sick
I showed you
that's a
"Give Me
sick
a Bullet."
Oh yeah. I forgot about that one. So yeah,
Yeah,
no, this song was good. I just feel like it dragged on a little too long. If it had, maybe a minute shaved off of it, I
it
would
had
have liked
like
it a
two
little
of
bit
the
more.
exact same guitar solos.
Yeah, it did.
Just the second
Yeah.
one was shorter.
Um, yeah,
So
neutral for the most part. I'll leave it at a 5.
you like the background vocals?
Didn't really catch my ear, honestly, too much.
Oh, well, there was a part like after the first guitar solo where they were kind of by themselves, and so
Hmm.
thought you might have noticed, but you probably remember if you heard it again. Um,
Yeah, I'd have to probably sit down and listen to it again.
yeah. Um,
Here we are, the last track of the album,
yes.
Night Prowler.
The song that inspired serial killer.
Hey man, I thought this
I'm
track
not gonna
was.
say inspired because like you could say it did inspire him, but he was not mentally right in the head, anyways.
Hmm.
If you have no idea what I'm talking about, Google the Night Stalker. You might be too young, um, Richard Ramirez, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Um, were you gonna say something?
This was my favorite song on the album by far.
Yeah,
Um, I thought
this
it was.
was the only one, like one of the only ones I showed you from this album,
Yeah,
like previously. I showed you this one and Walk All Over You.
yeah. I would say this. I would venture to say this is even like, one of my favorite AC/DC songs altogether. I think that it's so. I think this is sort of like a side of them that doesn't come out very often at all, and it was really cool to hear because it had
Mm,
that really like
mm.
dark, eerie kind of feel to it. It'd be great to just listen to while driving around at night, down a long dark road with maybe one or two lights on it. And it's got that really
It definitely
moody, low key kind of never gets super hype um at
it's
any.
sinister. It fits the
Yeah.
sinister vibe of the lyrics. Like they both fit really well together, the lyrics and the music, and so and also like the song is tuned down a half step instead of a quarter step this time. So it's a little bit sleepy. With
Hmm.
how slow it is, and um, the riff kind of allows for more space because chords are ringing out more instead of just digging in constantly. So it's a little bit sleepy, but it has the aggression and the sinister vibe, especially towards the end. The dynamics come up with the guitar, I think, um, and so like in my early days, this was like one of my favorite ACDC songs, like just in general, and I think it's definitely really strong, like for them, and I don't know, I don't know if I call it one of my favorites, but it's like B tier, I guess. I would put like Touch Too Much and Beating Around the Bush and Get It Hot like below it, and
Hmm.
Love 100 Man. Um, Although I gave a couple of those quite a bit higher ratings um, than, but anyways. Um, I'm I would probably give this one like a what would I give this one? Like an 8.
And eight. Yeah, like I said, I feel like this it was really nice to hear something kind of a little different from AC/DC, and like
Yeah,
this is exactly my kind of song too. It's not like it's got sort of a like that eerie atmosphere to it, and like there's a sense of intrigue there, but a sense of danger at the same time. And I feel like Bond was in kind of rare form on this one as well. It was a little, he was doing something a little different. Um, and the chorus, man, hits just right. The way it comes in, it's got that kind of slow, you know,
yeah.
droning feel to, and the
And then it has
solos.
a tiny little bluesy lick that comes
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
where it
yeah.
goes into the chorus.
And the solos on this thing are super tasty. Um, and
Yeah,
honestly,
he taps on this song. He does the tapping. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
Yeah,
funny enough, it's like one of the only like guitar techniques that I've learned any like of.
yeah.
um, like I can't play a solo, but I can do some taps, so like whatever. Um,
All the Van Halen fans like the tapping.
uh, and honestly, the lyrics on this thing kind of reminded me a bit of Thriller. I know this is older, but
Yeah, yeah.
it had kind of the similar feel, where it's
It's very Halloweeny and
yeah,
like
yeah. No, I really liked it, and I would sit
yeah,
this
me too.
one pretty solidly at an 8 as well. So I think we agree on
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I just like again, it's got the aggression and the sinister vibe, which I like, and again, guitar tone, and I really love the drumming on this song. Um, I like the fills a lot. I think they're like pretty much perfect. Like he couldn't have done better fills for like each part in the song. Like, and I've this is one of those songs where I think I've memorized like all the fills like perfectly. Um, and it always progresses the song like or the fills progress perfectly throughout the song, and they grow in aggression and length towards the end, and so I just love it. And I like the way the dynamics, like I said, grow with the guitar, where there's more strumming towards the end, and they're digging in a little bit more, and the solo again fits the sinister vibe really well, and I like the lyrics a lot. He was did a great job with the lyrics. It's one of the best on this album, I think. Um, and Yeah, this was really his swan song. He did like a jam demo with somebody else of an AC/DC song at some point, but I don't know if it was like ever like officially released. I don't think so. But this was a unfortunately kind of it for him, which is sad. But actually, the last thing he says with that was that Mork and Mindy thing. He goes, "Frostball, I know." And the first time you heard that, you were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
You were
I
like,
did. It did
"What?"
trip me out a little. I was just like, "What's happening?" Oh no.
Yeah,
Which is weird that I can listen to, for example, like a Dance Gavin Dance song, and a Will Swan rap verse can come in, and I'll just be like, "Oh yeah, this is sick." And then something like that can pop up in an AC/DC song, and I'll be like, "What is this, man?"
yeah,
uh, I guess it's all just perspective and expectation as well. Um,
yeah,
you know, because I have, until we started like just swapping music. I had never really heard anything outside of their big hits. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, so we both agree on an 8 on this one. Cool.
yeah.
So I guess final thoughts, opinions. What's your overall album rating, man?
Oh, there are some people who say this is like the best AC/DC album. I can see it, but I don't agree. But it has so many. They're not so many, but it has a couple of their most classic songs, like "Highway to Hell" and "Shot Down in Flames" and things like that. I'd give it like this is hard. Known this album for so long, like a 7,
Huh. Cool.
7
Interesting.
or an 8. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just hard to like out of all the albums that I know and love, like you know,
Hmm.
this is I don't know 7 or at this moment. Like again, like my ratings don't aren't always solid as a rock. Certainly not, but like for some reason right now I'm feeling like a 7. Um, in large part because of the complaints about the production I had earlier,
Hmm.
and you know maybe the lyrics not being they're Bond and they're great, but they're not you know
Yeah.
they're not Powerage or whatever.
Cool.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah. I guess to wrap up my thoughts on it,
or Let That Be Rock for that matter.
yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to
I
throw that
I
in there.
mean, there's some really good stuff on the third B Rock, so you know. Yeah, no, I think that this is a very classic album, um, and for good reason. I thought the mix was pretty good. I know that there are some issues with the production here and there, but like for the time that it came out, it's absolutely crystal. Um,
Definitely.
hell, a lot of guitar feel. Oh my god. Um, but I think that as great of a drummer as he is, I feel like they were a bit bland, very very you know straightforward, not a whole lot of interesting stuff happening. They sound great. The
Mhm.
sound of the drums is awesome. It's just the actual like rhythms and the beats and the fills never really caught my ear at all. But again, I'm not really a drum guy either, so I guess I wasn't paying it like the most attention to the drums. Um, and I do feel like this album kind of just reinstated in my mind that I'm just not a huge fan of Bon Scott as a vocalist or a lyricist.
Oh,
Um,
I thought you were gonna say AC/DC. I was like, oh,
oh no, I think they're a killer band.
I'd be the
Absolutely.
puppy you'd be kicking that this week if you said that.
No,
Like,
but I mean, I'm
I was like, I
sure.
knew you weren't like, I know they're not like top tier for you, but like,
Yeah,
I
no,
would have been like, oh,
no. There's some songs that I get freaking down to from AC/DC for
yeah.
sure. Um, but I just don't think Bon is the guy for me. I think that his voice is just a little. It doesn't have. I guess I'm a vocals guy. I'm first thing I'm gonna notice in a song
Yeah,
is the vocals and the melody, and he's not the strongest as far as just like absolute like range and vocal fidelity, or at least the way he uses his voice on this album doesn't appear that way.
I don't think this is his best vocal
Hmm.
album for sure. I would probably say Let There Be Rock, um, probably Powerage, maybe one of those. But
Yeah.
again, like how much rougher his voice sounded, like and scratchy the way he was singing. Like I don't know why that was.
And as far as lyrics go, I don't think these are bad lyrics. I just don't think they're the kind of lyrics that I like get into.
They don't really resonate with you,
Yeah,
like
they're not my
you
my
know.
kind of vibe too much, and I think that's just the case for a lot of older music. At least the way I
Yeah,
enjoy to
it's
listen
very
to
like
lyricism,
70s.
because like Journey's easily one of my favorite bands ever, like top five. But I'm never gonna tell you that I think Journey's got the greatest lyrics by any means necessary,
Yeah,
because a lot of their songs are just like, oh yeah, I love that girl.
yeah.
Um,
These are very of the times,
yeah.
I think.
Um,
I
and
mean, they definitely are distinct and personal, like for him, but
mhm.
yeah, you can definitely tell.
And again, like I said, I feel like this album was a bit samey from song to song. There was not a whole lot of diversity here, which again, if you really like the sound, that's a good thing. But for me personally, I'm not like enamored by AC/DC's sound, so I think it got a little bit stale as I was listening to it. Um, Never to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, just turn this thing off though. So I did like the album. I wasn't blown away by it. I thought it was pretty solid, and it is a classic. So I'm gonna let it sit
Yeah.
at a 6. I liked it
Do you
enough.
think you'd come back to like you'd come back to a couple of the songs?
Yeah, I would definitely come back to. Of course, I'd come back to Highway to Hell and Night Prowler, because those are, definitely gonna. I literally bought Night Prowler right after I listened to it again. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go jam to this a little
The
bit
first
later.
time?
No, the second time. I just wanted, like, because I knew
Okay.
we would probably end up reviewing it on here, and I was like,
Yeah.
if it
Yeah,
was,
you knew.
I was like, if I like it again the second time, I'm definitely just gonna buy it.
Yeah.
And then I might come back to Touch Too Much. Honestly, I know that one's not like crazy for you, but yeah. Overall, I would definitely, because I have a pretty big record collection. I don't have this album, and I like it enough to where I would go out of my way to try to get a copy.
Oh yeah.
So
There's plenty of copies of this one. Like there every record store you see like this one's there.
yeah, but I liked it enough. So yeah, it's a 6. It was a 6, enough to where I'm positive on it for the most part. So
Yeah.
alrighty,
That's about it.
that's about it. So the next thing we'll be reviewing is an album called The Light Years by a group called Aviations. Sort of a kind of a more modern prog rock group. Um, and the album came out a few years ago, and it's got a
How many
sort of
songs on it?
magic to it. And I think it's got 8 or 9, and some of the songs get pretty long.
That is perfect. I like for people out there who don't know, I just like I find it hard to listen to new music because it's like if I'm not familiar with something, like you can't jam out to something you're not familiar. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can
Like
totally
that's
jam out
just
to something that I'm not familiar with. But that's just a difference in like the way
yeah,
I
but
view
how? You don't know
music.
what's coming. Like
Dude, I love that. I love that sense of not knowing what's about to happen, and then like if I hear a groove come in, and I'm like, yeah, that's freaking sick groove. I'll just be jamming until it changes. So I don't know.
yeah,
I think that's just a
I just
matter
like to
of
be able to sing along and be able to go like here it comes,
yeah.
like kind of thing.
So yeah, I think that's just a difference in the way we
Like
consume
stylistic
stuff. Yeah.
differences.
consume media. But yeah, anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Make sure you
Take
drink your
care of your
juice,
bones.
drink your milk, make your bones nice and strong
Take care of your bones.
forever.